Hello, and welcome back to I Create For You. We are doing Haunted Presidents, and I'm going to skip ahead. We did the first two, and number 3 and number 4 are rather long stories, so I'm going to wait till my husband can help me out with that and read while I sketch. We're going to jump ahead to our 5th president, which is James Monroe. And I'll read that one and sketch him. James Monroe, 1758 to 1831. Those are his birth and death dates. He was the 5th president from 1817 to 1825. The ghost, like the once living man, is an imposing figure, 6 feet tall and of muscular build. Intelligence seems to shine from his eyes as the phantom surveys his surroundings. At first it seems as though the spirit is trapped inside an elaborate cage, a Gothic scrollwork of iron. But the wispy ghost passes through the ironwork as though it were not there. Ghosts are not restricted by material barriers. The lacy iron that surrounds and protects the tomb was erected in 1865 by the state of Virginia to honor one of its most famous sons, James Monroe. Monroe's ghost is not particularly notable, rather like the man himself. While his major contribution to American history, his proclamation of the so-called Monroe Doctrine, is widely known, Monroe's rather self-effacing personality has led to his being overshadowed by more dramatic and assertive presidents. His ghost at Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond, Virginia, seems to be quietly reflective, so unlike the heroic vision of George Washington leading troops into the Battle of Gettysburg, for example. Monroe's phantom, at least as reported by some, thoughtfully rubs his left shoulder as though massaging an old wound. Monroe is the only American president to have been seriously wounded in battle during the Revolution. Major James Monroe fought under General Washington at the Battle of Trenton. In Emanuel Lutz's famous painting, Washington Crossing the Delaware, Monroe is the one holding the flag. It took him 3 months to recover, and he carried that British bullet in him for the rest of his life. Monroe, like so many presidents, was a bundle of paradoxes. In his day, he was enormously popular. In his re-election in 1820, he received 231 out of 232 electoral college votes. He was not a charismatic or inspirational leader, but rather a methodical and efficient bureaucrat. His ghost, reportedly, is calm and undramatic. So was the man. One of his biographers observed that Monroe's virtue was not in flying high, but in walking orderly. His talents were exercised not in grandeur, but in mediocrity. On the other hand, Monroe was famously honest, a noble trait that was unfortunately not universal among presidents. His friend Jefferson said, Monroe was so honest that if you turned his soul inside out, there would not be a spot on it. By old age, he was financially broke. He had not been born rich. His father was a carpenter and a farmer, but he had married the daughter of a wealthy New York family, and she brought her extravagant tastes along with her money. When Monroe served as an American ambassador to France, his wife Elizabeth bought an entire house full of fancy French furniture for their Virginia home. She and his 2 daughters, Eliza and Maria, spent money much faster than Monroe could make it. In his impoverished old age, Monroe went to New York to live with his younger daughter, Maria, who had married into a rich family, the Gouverneurs. And so it came to be that Monroe was buried in the Gouverneur family vault in Manhattan's Marble Cemetery. Monroe died on July 4th, 1831. Exactly 27 years later, he was reburied in Hollywood Cemetery. Apparently, Monroe's ghost was confused when his body was moved from his first burial place to Richmond. His ghost, it is said, hung around the Marble Cemetery in Lower Manhattan for a while, until it too migrated to Richmond. There have been no reported ghostly appearances of Monroe's First Lady, but the phantoms of his 2 daughters are alleged to have shown up in the White House and in the nearby Stephen Decatur House. Both manifestations were one-time appearances, apparently. Eliza earned a reputation as a bossy, self-centered, and somewhat vindictive hostess during the 8 years she functioned as her father's official White House social director. Her sickly mother turned over her official duties to Eliza, who ruled with an unforgiving iron hand. Those who crossed Eliza would never get a White House invitation, regardless of their importance. Eliza ran her sister's wedding, the first ever in the White House, as a very exclusive affair with only 32 guests. Uninvited politicians and diplomats were outraged. Decades later, Eliza's ghost is said to have shown up during James Buchanan's term, abrasively ordering servants about as they prepared the East Room for an important reception. Allegedly, the phantom was rude and disruptive, attempting to rearrange the place cards on the tables. The ghost evaporated like fog in sunlight when the head butler showed up to see what the fuss was about. The spirit of Monroe's youngest daughter, Maria, was reported once at the Decatur House, which still stands in Lafayette Square opposite the White House. Her shade was said to look very distraught, as well it might be. The Decatur House was the scene of a nightmarish end to a grand party in honor of newlyweds Maria and Samuel Gouverneur. So many people had been snubbed by Eliza's insistence on the very short invitation list for Maria's wedding that the couple wanted to hold a more inclusive reception to soothe hurt feelings. War of 1812 naval hero Stephen Decatur offered to host the party. Unwisely, Decatur accepted a challenge to a duel in which he was seriously wounded. The party atmosphere ended abruptly when the mortally wounded host, dying in great pain, was brought home. Maria's sole reported appearance as a ghost at Decatur House is supposed to have materialized on the 100th anniversary of Decatur's death on March 20th, 1920. Will either sister ever show up again? Only time will tell. Wow, that's a whole family of ghosts right there. Another insight into another president's life. Okay, I'm going to try to do James Monroe. I'll put yours down there. Let's see how we go here. His hairline. At least this has me practicing more on people than animals, but I prefer animals. Wonder how he even met his wife, since they were sometimes people from two social backgrounds don't really meet, so to speak. And I don't know, it's the way they describe them. It seems weird that she would be attracted to someone who wasn't in her social network, as you would say. Being not that rich or whatever you want to call it, having that type of a background. It just seems funny that, I wonder, I don't remember if it said how they met, really. It's just, that's my first time reading the story, so nothing really stuck out like that to me. Okay, let's just do the outline of his face here. I'm going to do all this other nifty stuff right now. Oh, it doesn't show his hair down here. I'm doing it off of another visual so that I can somewhat get him right. Another one of those pixelated views. Okay. He didn't seem to have the strange hairdo like the other presidents did. You know how they had those white curls, sort of like the judges and stuff over in England still wear in their courtrooms. This is supposed to be some kind of scarf, I believe. So, make it bunch up as such. These are dark black. Get that all in there. So it seems like his one daughter was a real hard pill to swallow. She seemed a little bit snubby. I don't know if her mother reflected that to her or what the deal was, but the other one seemed more like her father, where she seemed to be more mellow, not so abrasive. I didn't even know that there was ever a wedding in the White House, and I'm surprised they even allowed it, even if it was the president's daughter. You know, it being, I don't think that is a appropriate, just my opinion, appropriate place for a wedding. I don't, just my opinion. And to not invite the people who preside there, that seemed a little, that's no way to make friends, I'll tell you. And you know, that would happen nowadays. He'd have a heck of a time passing stuff if all his constituents aren't considered good enough to attend his daughter's wedding. Oh my gosh, this mouth is awful. I'll get back to that. It kind of bothers me. Here we go with the eyeballs again. This one's gonna look funky. His eyes are totally black in this picture. Let me see. Maybe make it too big. Made his eyeball too big. Go back. Redo. Rewind. Okay. That's about the size they're showing, I guess. Oh, such fun with these faces, huh? other eyebrow than they show here. It's a little bit dark. I do kind of eyelid area. I don't have any of my blendy tools out here. Okay, then we have the eyelid. The eyeball. And the under part of his eye. How did I mess up his nose? I should have never erased it. I should have just left it the way it was, but to me it wasn't looking right for some reason. Oh yeah, and the lovely mouth area. Here we go. I'm going to have some fun with some of these, and I'll make them ghostly, like the blackened out eyeballs and this first few. Well, I did a little bit to, I think I did a little bit to George Washington, so, but, oh my gosh, this is horrible. What the heck? I'll make him mouthless. How's that? He can't speak or speak for a while. Here we go. I'm going to do it this way. That isn't even working. Oh my goodness. I might have to make him mouthless just because he's giving me such a problem. Sorry, buddy. I'm trying. I think that's as good as his mouth's gonna get. It looks like he has duck lips for a selfie. Okay. I think that's as good as Mr. James Monroe is going to get. Even though he looks like this. And I put that, and that's what he's supposed to look at. That mouth. It looks better in the camera than it does on just plain paper for me to try to. But there he is, our 5th president. And hopefully I can backtrack and get the other ones done with my husband's help, so it's not such a long video. Thank you for waiting till the end. Hope you enjoyed that little story, little fun fact about our 5th president. please give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you'd like to hear more of these kind of stories. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thanks for stopping by for now.